the Evergreen Media Network Studios, brought to you by Evergreen Media, creating cohesive marketing campaigns. Evergreen Media in Vero Beach.
Welcome to Silver Linings. I'm Janine Barrows, your host and sometimes co-host, and we are addressing those proverbial silver linings that people seek out when they are facing new challenges in life. And today, our guest is sitting with us, and that is Garry Rooney of Rooney and Rooney, PA, here in Vero Beach, and he's going to be discussing family matters. Garry's not just a guest with us today. He's actually going to be one of those co-hosts that I mentioned. He will be joining us on a monthly basis, about every 4 or 5 weeks, and we will be discussing topics of exactly that, family matters, legal topics, and concerns that usually impact most of us. And on that note, welcome, Garry. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Janine. Good to be here.
I'm so glad that you took the time this morning. I know your schedule's busy. I think you even told me that you were in court this morning, so we truly appreciate your time.
No problem.
Tell me a little bit about your history. I understand that you were born and raised right here in Florida.
Yeah, one of the few. Born and raised in Florida, grew up in the Space Coast, Rockledge area, and went to college here in Florida, and then graduated law school and returned back to Treasure Coast, where my family had moved in the mid-'80s.
The 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, what a time. But that's a different conversation.
Before Olive Garden was even here.
Before Olive Garden. Oh, goodness. That must have been many, many, many moons before. So when we talk about family matters, which, like I said, we'll be doing on a monthly basis, tell me what that could entail. Tell me a little bit about what you see and what you handle for families.
So, one of the things we deal with on a regular basis, and probably where our paths crossed over, is the fact that in Treasure Coast area, we have a larger than average aging community. So our focus has been on elder law for the past decade. That's been an increasing part of our practice. And so those issues come up quite frequently, and there's not one place you can go for all the answers. You have to have a connection with a lot of resources. And one of the things that you started up, which was great, was what's called Silver Circle. And that's a lot of entities that get together, from financial people to home health companies to, rehab facilities, to people that are focused on the generation ahead of us that's aging out, so we can find those answers for our clients. So I have clients that come in all the time. They need answers. I don't have all those answers. I have the legal answers, but I don't have the day-to-day answers. Who's going to come in and help the family? I reach out to people like you. So that's really our focus from our practice in the last 10 years, has really been pivoting to do a lot more of the elder law focus. I enjoy that. And
that would seem to be a very natural transition. As you mentioned, being here on the Treasure Coast, we have a very large population of individuals over the age of 75, and they're making life choices and decisions for themselves, and many of them do need some guidance. As we get older, our priorities change, our needs change, and the cost of our daily needs change. And those are all really big conversations that often entail somebody just like yourself or anybody from your legal team.
Well, sure. Not only are people making the decisions, but oftentimes others are making the decisions for them, or having to be part of a conversation. Probably the biggest thing I tell people is start a conversation. What do you want? What's your life going to look like over the next 10, 15, 20 years? A lot of people don't want to talk about it. So it's the kids, the neighbors, the caretakers, the friends that end up sometimes with that responsibility, unwittingly trying to help out, because a little help turns into a little more help, turns into a lot of help. And without a plan,
A little bit of a Pandora box
well,
there
it can
sometimes.
be. Sure,
Yeah.
it can be. So, if you roll back the clock maybe 20 years, I never thought elder law was in my future. I was the oldest grandchild, and I had the opportunity to have my grandparents live with me. And if it wasn't for people in this area that helped me with that transition, it would have been very difficult. No, so they moved in and they aged out in the home, which means that's where they passed. And so I was able to see, and my family was able to see those issues, right up front.
Up close and personal.
And thank God we had, my mom's a nurse. We had that benefit. We had, through my practice, a lot of, support that I could reach out and get answers to that people don't have.
Yeah, the average individual wouldn't know where to begin and how to address concerns and issues that arise as their loved ones begin aging in place.
Sure, and it changes. I tell my clients all day, twice this week, I don't have those answers. I'll reach out to Janine as the first call. I reach out to you. I say, hey, here's the situation. Here are the facts. This person, talk to me about the facilities, what's going on, where are the changes. And I try to have many of those conversations with other professionals in the area to help.
Sure. We are a village. We're a village of professionals, as you said, and it's important to bounce off of each other the information and questions, because where may be a bump in the road for you, we may have already crossed that bump and come up with a solution or an answer, or at least a road to get you to the answers you're seeking. So I love that. I love that so many individuals work together to advocate on behalf of their clients far beyond the purpose and reason that they actually knock on your business door. So I think that's a really nice thing to see happening in our community. And it says a lot about the respect and mutual confidence in each other, even when we find ourselves working in the same demographic and industries across the board. It's important.
And when it works out, when everything goes smoothly for a family or a person, we don't hear about it. What I deal with, what you deal with is the crisis, when it goes wrong, when the plan wasn't made. And those are the stories they get to tell people. Here's what happens when it doesn't happen. No one comes in and says, hey, guess what? We worked it out great without you. And let me tell you our story. No one ever comes and says that. We're trying to figure out a problem. And so we constantly have these conversations of making a plan. Do you have a plan? You're 50, 60, 70. Do you have a plan? If you don't have a plan, someone else is going to figure it out for you or be tasked with that responsibility. If you're the child of someone who's 70 or 80 and your parents don't have a plan, your grandparents don't have a plan, what's going to happen? What are the unexpected consequences of not having a plan? We, in addition to having those problems, we often hear about people taking advantage of elderly. And it's not all just, like someone knocked on the door to take money from an elderly person.
Yeah.
We've heard the stories many times where a friend or neighbor who did a favor, who takes me to lunch, the person says, well, you've taken me to lunch 3 or 4 times. Let me buy lunch this time. Okay. Let me put some gas in the car this time. I'll keep my credit card for next time. And then it just goes down where all of a sudden this person who has done a lot of good things is now spending money. And maybe there's a little too much spending, maybe not. But who's going to judge it 5 years later when the family from out of state comes and says, well, where's all the money? And some friend or caretaker's been helping, and now that person's on the hot, in the spotlight or on the hot seat for explaining where the money went. And it may all be legitimate, but now you're recreating legitimacy from scratch, going, well, I spent it all on Mr. Joe, and he needs to eat, and who wants to be questioned?
And that brings us back to the conversation that we began with, which was about planning. And they say, what is the old adage? And last week we had Mike Conway on, and he said something to the effect as well. If you fail to plan, then you should plan to fail. And that sounds harsh. So let's soften it a little bit. Instead of failing from lack of planning, you are sure to find yourself scrambling to put your ducks in a row. It can be done. It can be done with a team, as it should be done with a legal team in place to assist you, or a clinical team or a financial team, whatever the challenge may be. In this case, we're talking about legality and family matters. It's important that we work with individuals who have a really large view of how these things play out typically. And if we don't plan in advance, we could find ourselves and our family and loved ones caught up in scenarios just as you spoke about. So we do want to make decisions. And those are all things and challenges that we come across often when we're dealing with our loved ones that are over 65 or even older who might be in a position cognitively to be taken advantage of in an unexpected manner. And it could roll out in a multitude of ways in their lives, impacting their quality of lives or even their safety. I know that families deal with a variety of things. Not all of them are traumatic or horrendous story, but the preparation is imperative. And so when a family is thinking about what do we need to get into place and what is imperative and what are we talking about when we're saying planning, those are things that we're talking about are medical surrogacies, POAs, putting your will in place, making your desires known, protecting your assets when need be. And those are all things that need to have deep discussions with a legal team, a family legal team, an elder law team, a focus on those factors and those alone, and working in that particular field of law every day. And that is exactly what you have at Rooney and Rooney here in Vero Beach. And I just want to ask you, what are the most common hiccups that individuals make when they believe they're making those plans, those exact plans? I'm putting my ducks in a row, I'm sure of it. What are the most common mistakes that you hear about after the fact when they think they've done what they needed to do and find that they don't? Tell me about that. Tell us about that.
Well, we're about to go to break soon.
Right? We got a few moments.
So the two things when we come back we'll talk about is obviously the cost of not doing it the right way, the cost of obviously doing it the wrong way, and then what I call butter side up. If you don't know what that means.
All right. Well, we'll learn more about that, I'm sure. As Garry mentioned, we're going to go ahead and take a break. Go to our sponsors. We'll be back momentarily after they've got a moment to chit-chat with you privately. And we'll return to this very interesting topic of family matters with Garry Rooney. Thank you.
If you dream of creating a home with furniture where you make life one long weekend, visit Sunshine Furniture now and save 50% on all Tommy Bahama and Lexington during the fall savings event. Bedroom, living, and dining room, home office, media, and occasional furniture that is inviting and comfortable, Tommy Bahama and Lexington offer everything you need to furnish your Florida home. We're also having a huge half-price fall sale on lots of other coastal furniture by Universal, Hooker, Riverside, Seawinds, and Capri, including big sales on patio furniture by Berlin Gardens, Lloyd Flanders, Telescope, Kingsley Bait, and Windward. All pictures, lamps, and accessories are half price, and in-stock rugs are on sale too. Sunshine Furniture, 1295 US 1 in Vero Beach, next to Planet Fitness. Visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com and be sure to shop our outlet store directly across the street.
Sunshine Furniture, the best in every way. Ooh, have a sunshine day. Sunshine.
Are you a therapist or a nurse seeking the multi-state compact license? In the state of Florida, these and many other industries require a Level 2 live scan background check for clearance to work in your industry. A1A Fingerprints is your certified live scan source from Broward to Brevard. And if you're a medical provider, you need to be registered on the ACA web portal. A1A Fingerprints will help you navigate and comply with the law. Call 772-494-6556 or visit a1afingerprints.com. A1A Fingerprints.
Giddy up! Come on out to the Downtown Country Hoedown presented by Block and Scarpa. A big old party in Vero